The earth is Yahweh's and its fullness, the world and those that dwell therein. For he founded it upon the seas and established it upon the ocean currents. Who can ascend into the hill of Yahweh? And who can stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has no desire for falsehood and has not sworn to a lie. He will receive a blessing from Yahweh and justification from the Elohim of his deliverance. This is the generation of those who search for him, who seek the face of the Elohim of Jacob. Selah. Lift up your heads, O gates, and lift up yourselves, O ancient doors. The King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? Yahweh, strong and mighty. Yahweh, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O gates, and lift yourselves up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who then is this King of glory? Yahweh of hosts, or Yahweh Sabaoth. He is this King of glory. Selah. Amen. Greetings and shalom, everyone. This is Joseph Israel, and you are listening to the Kingdom Road Radio Show, and I'm really excited for part 2 of this Messenger of the Name interview about who is God. And so we have, again, Mark Manning, who runs that website. And yes, shalom, Mark Manning. Yes, Mark, greetings.
Shalom, shalom. It's great to be here, Joseph. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we had such a great time last week. We wanted to do it again, and I know everyone that listened enjoyed it. And this is an important topic, and it must be understood. And so we're going to I'm going to play the second clip, the second 15 minutes of the video, and there will be like it's basically a 48-minute video, so you'll have to hear the rest of the video, the audio of the video, by watching the actual video, which is on his YouTube channel, and I will post it on my Israel of Promise page. And basically, I really think everyone should watch it because the visual stuff that goes along with the audio is really incredible. So here we go. This is part 2 to Who is God from Messenger of the Name.
And his very name gives all credit to the deliverance, to the salvation, to his Father who is in the heavens. Yahuwah is his name. If we go to Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 65 verse 11, we read, "But you are those who forsake Yahuwah, who forget my Kodesh, my set-apart mountain, who prepare a table for." Now in your King James Version, it's going to say "that troop." And there'll be a little note there, and you look in the margin, and you're going to see the word G-A-D. That word is pronounced in Hebrew, in Ivrit, as God. And that can be proven with just about any software today, and with free websites on the internet that will show you how to pronounce various Hebrew words that appear in the Hebrew scriptures.
Strong's H1409. God. Strong's H1409. God. Strong's H1409. God.
These are sources that are coming from Christianity, and those sources acknowledge that in this passage, the word that appears here is God. So let us plug the word God in here and read it correctly. "But you are those who forsake Yahuwah, who forget my Kodesh, my set-apart mountain, who prepare a table for God, and who fill a drink offering for." And in your King James Version, you're going to see that number. In some of your English versions, you're going to see the word mene. And mene literally is the word that means a number or a multitude. And one of the alternative ways to pronounce this word is mane. So therefore, if you make the connection, you will see that money and God have always had something to do with each other. Matter of fact, the word God is the name of a Babylonian deity. Yashayahu is recording that Yahuwah has specifically said, you are those who have forsaken Yahuwah, who worship God. God is a demon. He is a devil of the Babylonians. He was an idol that was worshipped. That is the phonetic pronunciation of this word. That is how this word got into the Germanic languages. That is how we got these words. Got and God and good, all these words come from this word that refers to a pagan deity, a demon, and a devil of ancient Babylon, nothing more than an idol. Therefore, the name God should not be used when referring to the Eternal One, Yahuwah. It cannot be used because it is the name of an idol. And Yahuwah has declared specifically that he does not give his esteem to another, nor does he give the esteem of his great name to idols. The text says, you are those who forsake Yahuwah, who forget my set-apart mountain, who prepare a table for God, a fortune deity, a deity of quote-unquote luck. And this deity used filthy gain to infiltrate the hearts of the people. And the people had turned their backs on Yahuwah because this deity was going to allow them prosperity. It was going to give them everything that their hearts desired, and there would be no more Torah, no more law. But now you would have to adhere to the rules of God, which were anything that you wanted to do. And if you wanted to worship God, you had to sacrifice your children. You had to sacrifice unclean animals to this thing. This is not an innocent situation. This is a very vile and disgusting matter that has taken place on the earth. And now it is the time of restoration when the name of Yahuwah should be and will be declared to the four corners of the earth. It has already been declared. There are people of every tribe and nation that are waking up and realizing the importance of the Creator's name, and they are abandoning these blasphemous terms such as Lord and God. The word Lord simply translates into Hebrew as Baal, and Baal or Baal is the name of a pagan deity as well. Yahuwah's name does not mean Lord. Yes, Yahuwah is called Adonai in the scriptures, which means my master. But he is not to be referred to by the name Baal, by the names Lord or God in the scriptures. It's very clear. You are those who forsake Yahuwah, who prepare a table for God, and who fill a drink offering for many. You look on the money in our culture today, and the dollar bill says, in God we trust. And you see the connection between many or money and God. People trust in the mammon. They trust in the fortune. They trust in the idea of luck. They trust in the idea of filthy gain rather than trusting in Yahuwah. And further he says in verse 12, and I shall allot you to the sword, and let you all bow down to the slaughter, because I called and you did not answer. I spoke and you did not hear. And you did evil before my eyes and chose that in which I do not delight. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 19 reads, what then do I say? That an idol is of any value? Or that which is offered to idols is of any value? No. But what the nations, the Gentiles, the Goyim, what they offer to demons and not to Elohim. And I do not wish you to become sharers with demons. You are not able to drink from the cup of the master and the cup of demons. You are not able to partake of the table of the master and the table of demons. It's very clear that this deity, this entity that is known as God, is nothing more than a demon and a devil, and we cannot serve Yahuwah and serve the devil, serve Shaitan. You have heard me right. God is Satan. Satan is God. This is the reality. It is a very scary reality when you first understand this. It is a very strange thing to wake up to and to realize that your entire life, when you've heard people speak English, they have used words that describe a demon and a devil of ancient Babylon, and that this was always in the scriptures. This was always there. Yahuwah had always kept this truth there, that the name of God is another entity. It is not Yahuwah. So when we ask the question, who is God? We need to change the question now and ask, who is Yahuwah? And seek him with our heart, soul, and mind, because it says his people will know his name in that day. Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 20 says, but the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other Elohim, of other mighty ones, even that prophet shall die. So if a person comes and proclaims any other name other than Yahuwah, be it God, be it Lord, it does not matter what they call it. That person is a false prophet. There's no way they know the Creator Yahuwah, because if they intimately knew him, then they would know that he will not give his praise of his awesome name to an idol, and that he hates God. And he has specifically said that those who worship God have forsaken him. They have forsaken him. If this is something that's upsetting to you, if this somehow frustrates you, then I invite you to study this out. I invite you to research this and to see that clearly the word in the Hebrew text that's spelled Gimel Dalet in the scriptures, the Strong's H1409, is in fact pronounced God. And even Christian sources all unanimously agree on this subject matter. In Shemoth, Exodus chapter 23, verse 13, we read, and in all that I have said to you, take heed, and make no mention of the name of other Elohim, other mighty ones. Let it not be heard from your mouth. We're not even supposed to say the word God. The only reason that I'm using the word in this video is to demonstrate to those who have never heard this truth, never heard this message, that it is the name of an idol. It is the name of something unclean and defiled and putrid, and we should not use that word to describe the Creator, Yahuwah. We should not. So therefore, the only reason I am uttering the word is so that you can understand this, because the scriptures actually require us not to even use this word. Instead, we would just say G-O-D to spell it out, to not even give it the pronunciation, not to even give it the honor of vocalizing it with our lips, the same lips that we use to call upon the Creator Yahuwah. It is a proven fact and common knowledge that Baal or Baal is worshipped under thousands of different names all over the world. And the phonetic pronunciation of one of those names is, in fact, God. Baal is God. And the worship of Baal, or God, originates at the Tower of Babylon. Nimrod, the king of Babylon, decided that he would lift himself up in the eyes of all of his subjects, that he would attempt to deify himself, and he was known as Baal, or God. It was in the heart of Nimrod to build a giant tower that would reach into the heavens, into the Shemayim, so that he could lift himself up above Yahuwah and be exalted above all that is called Elohim. But of course, it enraged Yahuwah that this was in man's heart. So Yahuwah decided that he would confound the language of man and confuse it. At that time, all of the world spoke one language and were of one speech. But Yahuwah confused the languages at the Tower of Babel. In fact, Babel means confusion for this very reason. When the people of the region of Babylon were dispersed into the four corners of the earth, they brought that pagan worship of Baal, or God, with them and carried it all over the world. Though their languages had changed, the worship was basically the same. So therefore, Baal began to be known by various names. We know, for instance, that Baal is Jupiter or Jupiter, and that Jupiter or Jupiter is Zeus. And just about everyone knows of Zeus, of the ancient mythologies of the Greeks and the Romans, because there are movies and all kinds of depictions of him even to this day. We know that Zeus is also Thor, who is also very famous in today's culture and made as a mighty one for children to worship, a superhero and things like that. We see that the worship of God is still very much alive in the earth. The people brought the worship of God, they brought the worship of Baal to all the four corners of the earth. But with that, they brought the worship of Baal's wife, who is Ishtar or Easter, also known as Ashtaroth or Venus or Diana of the Ephesians, just depending on which language you speak or which region you find yourself. She may be depicted a little different here and there depending on the culture of that region, but the worship of Ashtaroth and Ishtar and Venus and all these things essentially all go back to the mother deity, the wife of Baal, just as the worship of Baal originates at Babylon, but he has been known through all the regions of the earth by various names such as Zeus and Thor and Odin, all these things. Also, this has happened with his wife and with his illegitimate son, the reincarnated sun deity known as Tammuz, also known as Mithra, and all types of aliases have been attributed to this pagan trinity that has been worshipped through all the peoples of the earth. We see traces of this ancient practice in all major religions today. In fact, you might be surprised to note that the name God is the phonetic pronunciation of one of the pagan idols of the Hindu religion. Yes, you heard me correctly. The Hindus today still phonetically worship a deity whom they call God. However, God is now, in their religion, a female, which is not unlike the pagan religions who worship idols. Many times their male mighty ones will appear as female mighty ones, and their female mighty ones will appear as male. They are gender confused. So this is nothing new in the world that we see today. They worship God. In fact, the largest animal sacrifice that is done on the planet is done in Nepal, and it is done to the deity that the Hindus call in their language to this day God, or God Himai. We have to understand that this practice goes all the way back to the Tower of Babel.
Oh, that was great. I love the way the second part of the video really takes it even deeper, and we touched on some of this on the first interview last week about how the ancient name God was a pagan deity that goes back to the ancient Hebrew times, going back to Babel Tower, which Abraham was called out of, as we know, when the sons of Noah went astray and began to follow the devil and broke covenant with Yahweh, with Yahuwah, our Creator. And so basically we realize these things go all the way back to Babel Tower, and we find that, and you're really familiar with this, and which is really exciting because we never even talked about this, and I really believe that my faith is that Yah is calling us out from all four corners of the earth, and the fact that we are reaching a similar understanding without ever speaking to each other, that He's calling His people, and then He needs us to get together and work these things out, and that He could use us to actually broadcast His name to the ends of the earth. And I really excited to. That's why I brought you on my show, Mark, because I feel like you're really sharing some true message here, and I'm not afraid for people to hear it, because I want people. The thing is that no one should believe me or no one should believe you. We should seek to follow the Creator and His Word. And it says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they're from Elohim, because many false spirits and false prophets have gone out." As we get into the second part of the video, it starts off with you continuing on about the Messiah and how He served the Creator and worshiped the Creator, and you really make it really clear that He was not the Creator. And then you go into you start to take it into, you go deeper into the what God is, and or God, and how it's related to God, and then you end up showing the phonetic pronunciation, and then you go into the basically the GAHD, and into it as it ends with this Hindu basically deity that they actually call God. And how did you find that out? How did you? Because that was amazing to me.
That was amazing. It was amazing. It's one of those things that Yahuwah just kind of put in my lap one day. I mean, what happened was, I was just casually looking at the news, not on TV, of course, but, through the internet, just looking at different things that are happening in our world. And there just happened to be this sacrifice that had just happened in Nepal. Right before they had the major, they had some major catastrophe that happened about a couple of weeks later after that. And this sacrifice is the largest human sacrifice. I mean, not human sacrifice. Sorry, there's no human sacrifice. This is the largest animal sacrifice. Thankfully, there's no humans being sacrificed, but largest animal sacrifice that's done in modern times. And it is brutal. It's absolutely a brutal ceremony. I mean, there's no compassion in the way these animals are slain. They're just basically butchered with old rusty machetes and stuff like that, and it's a bloodbath, and it's absolutely disgusting. But what struck me was so amazing, is I was able to share this with some family members, so it was pretty helpful at that time. But was that this deity is named? They call this deity God. This is, I mean, I don't mean like English speakers say that this deity is, a god. I mean, the phonetic name of the deity that they sacrifice to is named God. So you can only imagine the confusion that would create if you found one of these Hindus who, sacrifice to God, and then here you come, as whatever, you think an ambassador of the kingdom, or, a Christian missionary, or whatever it may be, and you're trying to share your viewpoint, and you start to talk about the Son of God or about God or whatever, and to them, they're just gonna look at you and realize that they're gonna. This is what they think. Hindus think that their religion is the oldest religion on the face of the planet, so they're just gonna automatically assume that you've got your viewpoint from them, and nothing can be further from the truth. And what we find in Hinduism is that they still worship a lot of the deities we see in the scriptures, that the false demons and devils of the other religions. For instance, Dagon is still one of the deities they worship. I forget the name right offhand. Sometimes they call him a different name, of course, but he'll be half human, half fish, things like that. They also do worship a deity named Many, just like we talked about last week. And like I said, they still worship a deity named God. They also still worship a deity named Baal or Baal. So they are very much in tune with all of these heathen deities we read about in the scriptures. And so therefore, it is, if that doesn't strike, a Christian or someone who's new to this, Messianic or, Hebrew roots movement, people that are involved in that, if that doesn't strike them, I don't really know what will.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's kind of like, it's the Creator has allowed it to be the largest largest animal sacrifice again. The largest animal sacrifice, I believe, just to expose this situation in these last days.
Yeah.
So it is a deep situation for sure.
Yeah, and so that on the video you put up this photo of this. It's like a dark-skinned human demon creature thing, and that's what it looks like. That's the photo of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is the idol. That is, and those idols sometimes they look a little different, because they have artists obviously that render the images. So there is a little bit of flexibility in the appearance of the demon, but usually it is always female. However, in Hinduism, it's generally known that the females are sometimes actually males, as I mentioned, and so there's a lot of gender confusion with their deities. I mean, it's pretty sick stuff. I mean, some of it's so sick I can't even can't even really go into it right now.
Yeah.
But, just to be, as truthful about it and as we can, is just know that you can research this. If you can't find it, like if you want to go do your own private study, you want to look up this sacrifice that is done, you can look up, just type in largest animal sacrifice. You can type in GAD. You can also type in, which would be, they pronounce it as God. They spell it out, and when it comes into English, they spell it out as GAD, but they pronounce it as God, not Gad. But and they also call it also God Himai. So that's another form of the name, which is just more specific. Kind of like when you see Baal and then Baal Peor. You know what I mean? He is Baal, but he's also called Baal Peor and things like that. So you can actually, anybody can find this information. It might take a little bit of, digging, because it's probably not something you've heard of before, but, look at it in your own free time. And, you have to make some decisions based off of that, But there's no doubt that Hinduism, the root of Hinduism comes from Babylon. It comes from the Babylon Tower. There's no doubt about it. It's just repackaged, and we also, I think, sometimes forget that India is technically that part of the Asiatic world that worship these deities at that time. So we know it goes all the way back. There's really no discussion or argument that's going to be able to come from anybody that can deny that. I think whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or Messianic, or if you just call yourself a follower of the way or a Messiah, follower of Messiah, there's generally nobody who's going to argue those points.
Yeah.
They're only going to what they're going to tell you is, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? They'll just say, well, it doesn't. They might say it doesn't matter, but I'm telling you, it really matters. It matters so much that thousands of animals are sacrificed every year in honor of it. It's sick. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
So
why? I just looked it up. I just Googled it, as you said, the largest animal sacrifice, and it comes right up. It's very clear. There's Wikipedia stuff on it, and it's actually every 5 years though. But yeah, it definitely it definitely matters, and it's just time to wake up, brothers and sisters, and realize where we're living. We're living in Babylon, and as you said last week, and as I've said in many of my videos and many of my radio shows and Bible studies, scripture studies, the original, when the devil took back control over the earth after Noah's flood, the time of the flood that Noah came through, because he was a man of faith, him and his family, was the first New World Order. It was the one world government, one world religion, and this is the same thing that we see happening today as the leaders of all the demonic faiths, and they are demonic, and this isn't to be mean. Of course, the scriptures are very clear. Satan, the devil, has deceived the whole world. Revelations 12:9. He's deceived the whole world. If you don't believe the scriptures, then you're not going to believe what I have to say. But if you say you believe in the scriptures, and it says Satan, the devil, has deceived the whole world, and you're going to think, well, he didn't deceive me. Well, he did deceive you. He deceived all of us, and we're coming out. The only way for us to turn around and get out of that is to repent and seek the truth. And so the devil has deceived the whole world, but the one people he wasn't able to totally destroy was Israel, because in Israel had the scriptures. And that's what Shaul the apostle said. What advantage has the Jew? Much in every way, mainly because they have the teachings of the Creator. And this is the only place for us to come to, and it doesn't, you can't find it all just by reading the book of Matthew or 1 Corinthians. You got to go from Genesis and read all the way to Deuteronomy, and then read Joshua, Judges, and all through the writings of all the prophets. And here, there's so much information in here. But if you don't understand the Torah, then you will always be like a little bit topsy-turvy on your foundation. And there's so many prophecies and things within the Torah. And right there in Genesis chapter 10 and 11, it goes over the one world government. And we are living in the days when the one world government is being set up again. And you bring this out on another video, and I'm going to swerve from the topic here, about the mark of the beast being symbolic and not necessarily a microchip. That's another thing that I really agree with. And just that the Torah was supposed to be on our head and on our arm, on our hand, and we see the Jews today actually wrap the tefillin, but that's not what it's really talking about, I don't think. It's talking about what we do with our mind and with what we do with our physical works, serving the Creator, and people being, it says in Revelation 13, the whole world will marvel after the beast, And so we see here that this one world government, brothers and sisters, is going to follow God. That's what we have to realize. That's what I'm trying to get to. And you, at the end of the video, which we don't play, which I want everyone to watch because his testimony, he just burns the fire, which I say is good fire. It's a true, it just gets, I get excited when I see this because I don't see it very often, and that's why I brought him on this this show, and I want to share it with you all. Watch the video. Watch it with your children. Watch it with your parents. Watch it with your grandparents. It's a really good way. No one can argue it. Like you said, all they can say is it doesn't matter. It does matter. And guess what? If we don't wake up, we're going to be following this false deity that they call God, which is actually, you bring it out. Ultimately, if we want to get really clear, and this is going to shock people, that the name God or title God, it really is alluding to the devil deceiving mankind. And this is a serious thing. And Yahweh, Yahuwah, has to be vindicated. His name has to be sanctified and set apart. So anything you want to say on what I just brought out, Mark?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, there is obviously the one world government, one world religion. They call it the New World Order. That was the term that the politicians have been using for years and years and years now. And most of us know, this is brought out into the open daylight now. I mean, you can, even on little cartoon programs and stuff like that, they try to use the propaganda to mention the New World Order and stuff like that for the children and trying to get us used to it. Those who remember professional wrestling from 10, 20 years ago, I can't remember how long ago it was now. Maybe it wasn't quite 20, maybe 15. But they use, the term New World Order. They were bringing it in. They had Hulk Hogan and all those guys, and it was supposed to be cute. But really, what it was an indoctrination. And so they're indoctrinating the people. And what they're going to ultimately do is they're going to say, and they've been saying this, by the way, the Roman Catholic Church has been leading the way for the ecumenical movement for, so long that I don't even think people realize this, but it's a major thing. The popes have, which I don't like to use the term pope. It means father in Latin, so I don't call him father. But the role that he has made the statements, to the world that we all worship the same mighty one. We all worship the same Elohim. But of course, when that translates into English, it's just, we all worship the same God. But what's interesting is the Roman Catholics, when they translated the scriptures to the Latin Vulgate, you have the terminologies Deus instead of Yahuwah, instead of Elohim, you have Dios and Deus. These are forms of the word Zeus. So what happens is that this is a way again, all mighty ones, all so-called mighty ones of the people. They'll say that Krishna, Allah, Muhammad, I guess they won't say is a mighty one, but they'll say that all these teachings and all these things are essentially the same. It all points to the same one. And so essentially, I think it would be pretty appropriate to assume that the New World Order is going to have people swear their allegiance to God, to some type of deity. Most likely, they'll just call him God, because that's what they've already got into the minds of the people. And most Christians, they don't know that, so they would be okay with that. They would accept that, because of course you can't win them over if you say you got to swear your allegiance to Satan. It's not going to fly too well for Muslims or Christians or Jews. But if we just all get together and we say, you know what, we all believe in God, then yeah, it's a lot easier to push the agenda.
Wow.
But something that I want to point out, one verse I do want to point out real quick is Deuteronomy 32 verse 17, because I was told growing up, I had many questions about the scriptures. I had a question about demons and things like that, and where do they appear before the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. And I never really got solid answers, but it's throughout the scriptures. In Deuteronomy 32 verse 17, It says they sacrificed unto devils or demons. This is talking about the nations, the Gentiles. It says they sacrificed unto devils or demons and not to Elohim. And then further it says to Elohim whom they knew not, to new Elohim that came up newly, whom your fathers feared not. So basically it's talking about the fact that, this pagan worship of demons and devils and idolatry, I mean, that it's deeper than just bowing down to a statue. It's deeper than the words we use. It goes to a core. When you call on this name, there is an entity that is behind the name. And just as we pointed out with showing the Hindu sacrifice, we see that this demon is a very violent demon that is bent on sexual promiscuity and all kinds of disgusting matters. So, this is obviously not a reflection of the Elohim of Israel, so therefore it's just not acceptable, But there's more verses. I mean, Psalm 106 verse 37, yea, they sacrifice their sons and their daughters to devils. So, there's all kinds of references to this. And anyway, that's kind of what I want to point out.
Yeah, and don't you, I can't remember this in the video, but don't you talk about in your video about the cup of demons versus the cup of the master?
Yeah, it's amazing that you said that because I was actually right there just a moment ago before I turned over. Like you said something that made me think about Deuteronomy, so I flipped from there back. But yeah, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, Shaul makes it really clear that, let me actually go there real quick and just read it real fast. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, he says, well, I'll just kind of paraphrase it, then I'll read it. Well, here I am. I'm already there. So he says in verse 20 or verse 19, he says, what then do I say? That an idol is of any value, or that which is slaughtered to idols is of any value? No. But what the nations slaughter, they slaughter to demons. So he's quoting the Torah. And he says, and not to Elohim. And I do not wish you to become sharers with demons. You are not able to drink the cup of the master and the cup of demons. You are not able to partake of the table of the master and of the table of demons. So, and it goes on further. But yeah, that's the point. It's summarizing is that you can't, you have to serve one master. The scripture is very clear. You're going to love one and you're going to hate the other. You're going to cleave to one and you're going to detest the other. So, I mean, when the true believer out there, who hears this information, instead of, jumping to criticize you for having me up here or criticizing me for what I'm saying, the true believer, even if he uses the word God, he's going to rejoice now. He's going to understand. He's going to have knowledge. He's going to say, you know what, I was making a mistake. Usually what happens is people want to go back and be like, what about my mother? What about my father? What about my grandmother? What about my grandfather? And this is my message to those people too, is that, you can't focus on everybody else's life. You have the one life. You came into this world on your own. You will leave this world on your own. You'll stand before the Creator on your own. What your grandmother, your grandfather, their righteousness is not, it's not something that you need to focus on. What you need to focus on is that you're in the last days. The Creator is bringing this truth, revealing these things for you. Yahuwah is a righteous judge. I trust his judgment better than any man. He will do righteously in the judgment day. You let him worry about the judgment, and you worry about, the fact that he has called you into this world for a reason. You're not hearing this. There's no chance that anybody's listening to us right now by just reason or happen chance. They're hearing this right now because we are in the last days, and the shofar, the trumpet has to sound. This message has to go forth. And so there are going to be believers out there who are going to rejoice to hear this,
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be some who are going to be kind of upset about it because they've got a lot of, people who invest a lot in the word God, they got a lot to lose. Because as we pointed out in the video, God is a fortune deity, you know what I mean? And in the churches, this is not going to be accepted, because the modern Christian church, when you flip through the channels on your television, which I don't even have that garbage, I don't watch TV, but I know what happens when you turn through. You find a Christian, the first thing you're going to hear about is not the message of the kingdom. It's not the message of Yahuwah and his son Yahushua. It's, I need some money, I need you to send money, and I understand that it takes money to do things. But these people, what are they doing with it? They're promoting themselves. They're promoting false teachings and heresies, So we have to know that those people have too much invested You know, it's going to be hard for them to go back and say, you know what, I was wrong. But I promise you that if you find someone, you know, who's legitimately studying the Hebrew Scriptures, and you mention this to them, and you show them this passage, there's no doubt that Isaiah 65:11 is very clear. You are those who forsake Yahuwah, who prepare a table for God. You know, that's what it says. So, and I'm just repeating that because I don't know how many people, you know, heard last week. There could be people who didn't, you know, hear that first 15 minutes. You know,
Right.
that was kind of the premise. Was when we looked up the word God in the dictionaries, we found out that it could be used for any idol, and that it was originally introduced by Teutonic pagans, that the early believers didn't use it, and that only later, after those wicked people had begun to believe, you know, they began to push people to use the word God. And we went all the way back into the Hebrew in Isaiah 65:11, and your version might have the word that truth there, or GAD, but in Hebrew we see that is pronounced God, so it's another deity who says, you are those who forsaken him, who prepare a table for God. So it's you know, it'll turn your world upside down, you know, but allow it to. The Creator is trying to, you know, he's calling you out, you know, he's calling you out. So rejoice that he's allowing us to know and continue in the truth. That's why my message is to people who are hearing this, and this is kind of, you know, new or startling to them.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, very, very great testimony, brother. And interestingly enough, the New World Translation, this new version that the Jehovah's Witnesses have put out, they write it like this: but you are among those who forsaking Jehovah. So they know that. They know the Creator has a name. They know that it's all about his name. It says, those forgetting my holy mountain, okay, which is his true worship, those setting a table for the God of good luck. They actually put that there. And then it says, and those filling up cups of mixed wine for the God of destiny. And that's it. That's wild, because they actually add God associated with those other names, which if we take it with what you're saying, I know they don't, I mean, they use the word God in their English translations all the time, which they should know better because they have the truth. They have a lot of truth. Jehovah's Witnesses should know better. In the back of their book, they go into Paleo Hebrew. They have a lot of information. They just, for some reason, don't put it all out there. But they actually have a lot more information than they're sharing, or they should, it appears. But this little version is really amazing. And then the Father says in verse 12, in most translation, he goes into like a Hebrew word pun. So that because they have filled their for this fortune deity and this destiny deity, it says, so I will destine you to the sword. So their destiny is going to be destruction. So that's the whole thing, brothers and sisters out there, is that the Israel, and this is Yeshayahu, Isaiah is speaking to the Israelites. You know, he's not speaking to the Christians or the, you know, literally in his day it was the Israelites that were doing this, but it also has a twofold meaning for the last days. This prophecy most definitely is a last days prophecy, though historically it did apply in some degree to his generation, but and to the time when Israel was destroyed. But the thing is we got to realize hypocritical Israel pictures what's become as, you know, Christianity, because they could have had the truth. They could have worshipped the true Elohim, but they chose the Vatican, just like Esau chose to sell their birthright for a bowl of soup and worldly pleasures and worldly gains. And we see that this is basically the house of Edom, and we see that Edom has always fought against Israel, and Israel are the true followers, and Israel are the ones that get the birthright, even though they come up last. And our generation is when Israel is actually being regathered. And we will be made up of Yehudim and Goyim, Jews and Gentiles. We will be made up, and we will stand before our Creator and actually be a light to the rest of the nations. And there's something that's really amazing happening here. But just as Israel, just like you bring out in your Sodom and Gomorrah video, which is another great video, that the fact that I even have some of the sulfur from there in my house. Like, my friend went there and got it in the land of Israel, and I have it. and I show people this burnt this city and all these cities around there. People talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. They don't talk about the other cities that also were burned up. But all the cities around the Dead Sea, which is the reason why it's the Dead Sea, or part of the reason, because of the sulfur and all the minerals. But anyways, that's an example of what disobedience leads to. Mankind, they were a disobedient, and basically, why did the Almighty do that? It's for our benefit. He did that for our benefit, so those people in the last days can look back and say, wow, look what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what's going to happen to our generation. And we can look at what happened to ancient Israel. And that's what's going to happen to the unfaithful in this time that are claiming to be faithful. So that's the judgment must begin with the house of the Elohim first. And, those that are claiming to be faithful but are hypocrites are the most guilty. And that's why, as you brought out, the Catholic Church and these Protestant churches are going to be the most guilty for misleading the mankind. And it's written, through all the prophecies, it's written. It's a lot of people today to come and tell you that the Antichrist or the Anti-Messiah is the Muslims. It's no way. It can't be. It's the Vatican, and she's the mother of all harlots, which the other Protestant churches are. And, of course, Islam, the leaders of Islam will side up with them, and the leaders of Hinduism and the leaders of Buddhism, and the Dalai Lama is a good friend with the Pope. You just look at how many times they've taken a photo together. And all the politicians and they're all going to get together and get in bed. That's what the Most High says. They commit fornication together. It's a very unclean and demonic practice. And my brothers and sisters, they have to be exposed for what they're doing. But really, it's for our benefit. But we know that the Most High has already written it, that the system will go down. There's no hope for the system. They can't. It says in Jeremiah 51, we would have healed Babylon, but she couldn't be healed. The system cannot be healed. And so we got to come out. And Brother Mark, I'm so thankful for your firm stance and raising your family in the right way and speaking these beautiful truths. And I really, we're going to keep going here. But just plug your website once again for the people. Let them know.
Yeah, it's www.messengerofthename.com. We got, like I said, all the videos from YouTube. Hopefully, eventually, I'll have those in another format, not just YouTube. I started putting the videos on YouTube before I ever put out the website, and so anyway, so we're kind of catching up. So we're doing some catching up. We're going to do some updating and things like that. But please, go check it out. We've got a lot of videos, a lot of articles, and the Torah portions. We've even got Torah portion for children, for things like that. So if you have youths, I totally recommend reading those. I think those are great summaries for youths. So yeah, that's where they can find the information. They can also type in Messenger of the Name, all one word, into YouTube or on Facebook, and you can like the Messenger of the Name page there.
Okay, great. Yeah, I actually realized we've almost gone to the full measure of the time again, and I love that you're bringing that out for the children, because the children are really getting there's a lot of attack on children, and I noticed I started reading Torah portions with my children when they were really young, and I noticed that it gave my children a moral compass. It gave them, they knew right from wrong, and it handles a lot of what people in this world will call adult topics. They don't want to talk about these adult topics with their kids, and then they wonder why their kids got pregnant when they were 12 or 13 or 14. I mean, they don't want to talk about righteousness and what is proper, the way to use sex, and how these things that the scriptures addresses right ways these things should be having through marriage, and the wrong ways that the nations do. And so, but when you read the Torah with your children, kind of hard subjects come up, and subjects that we're really faced with in the last days, and the Creator's viewpoint is made very clear. And I really am glad you put out some stuff that can get young children interested in it. How long have you guys been doing that? Did you start with that from just teaching your own children and deciding what made sense to them, or how did you get that together?
Well, yeah, and the fact that there's a lot of young people, and it's hard in this generation that we live in to kind of get get their attention because everything is games and everything. It's all about entertainment, and so we wanted to try to figure out a way to give them something for the Sabbath, something they can look forward to, something to help them understand. It's really our responsibility to be educating these children. I mean, these adult topics like you're talking about. If we don't instill into them righteousness, then these adult topics will be covered in the school systems, and they will give the wrong viewpoint, and they're going to pollute the children. So it's really just having a heart for the young people, knowing that they have questions. That's one thing that's always bothered me about Christianity, is that in Christianity, questions are not allowed usually, or they're frowned upon. I think that the best way to teach people is to allow people to ask questions, and to attempt to answer those with real answers, not just, giving them some short little, go look at this verse and then it has nothing to do with what we're talking about kind of thing. So doing it in our own home, is the Torah portions. I feel like, some people don't use the Torah portions. I don't think it's mandated that you have to read those specific verses every week, every year. But I do think it's great. I don't see why you wouldn't if you could, especially if you have children.
Yeah.
Because it gives you the ability. I know children, Joseph, and you probably do too. I know children who could debate any pastor in America and make them, just look as if they know nothing. These men have gone on to colleges and received great education. But I know children who can, debate any pastor and who know the scriptures. They can tell you all these things as they've been raised this way and they've been teaching. I mean, they've been learning and asking their parents and so just like this subject of who is God, I mean, most adults will have a problem with it. Some adults will, but a lot of children won't, because children, they absorb information. They really want to know, and this kind of stuff will make sense to them. I don't know if you remember me saying it, but I said it last week that even as a youth, like when they would have me try to read in a school setting, if I was going to use the word God to describe like Hercules or Zeus or something like that in the text, like if I was reading from a book that they were making me read, out loud, I would have a hard time reading the word God, because I was like, wait a minute, isn't that the name of the mighty one in the scriptures? So how can we call these other? So the children children will get it. It's usually the adults that fumble the most. But,
True.
But teach your children well. I mean, you have the one chance, you get the one shot.
Yeah.
Teach your children. Children are a heritage from Yahuwah. They're the next generation. They're going to have a tough world to live in. So make it as easy of a road as possible. And I say do that with teaching the word of Yahuwah, at a young age.
Yeah.
Youngest age.
True, my
From
brother.
The womb, even, if you...
Right, start in the womb. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here, and everybody. This interview is with Mark Manning of messengerofthename.com. And, want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Kingdom Road Radio Show. Wonderful testimony, Brother Mark. And hopefully another time later on in the year we'll have you back to go into some more details. And everyone go to check out messengerofthename.com. He's got a great article on the Torah. He handles a lot of subjects in his videos that you're going to find floating around the Hebrew roots and Messianic circles.
Pray that this word will continue to get out to the nations, to the whole world.
Amen.
Praise
Yes.
Yahuwah for that.